Also, when talking about your orchids during winter, a lot of them with the coolness slow down their growth. Their metabolism slows down, and some of them even go into dormancy, like your catasetums. They'll just lose all their leaves and go completely dormant, and then we have to manage our watering. So things like with the catasetums, we don't water at all. We let them go through that rest period until we start seeing that first little bit of growth in spring, and then we start resuming watering. We're in the middle of winter now, and me with my heavy watering hand has caused a few problems. So we're going to have to remove him from his pot and see what I have done wrong. Welcome to the Nature Company. If this is the kind of information you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and that notification bell to be notified of all our upcoming content so you never miss out on a thing. Catasetums are saprophytic, which means they grow on dead, rotting material. So things like this old, dead tree stump that's got all the soft, rotting wood inside it. This is an ideal place to grow a catasetum if you have one, because this is where it would be growing in nature. This holds a lot of moisture during the wet season, and of course naturally it would dry out during the dry season. So this is one of the reasons that catasetums go dormant, is because they go through those dry, wet seasonal changes. Also, the reason that catasetums grow so incredibly quickly is because they're growing on old, dead, rotting wood that is about to fall off the tree or that is on the ground, and they have to grow quickly so that they can repropagate themselves onto the next dead, rotting piece of wood, because this will just disappear quite quickly in a rainforest and there'll be nowhere left for it to grow. Catasetums are often found to be relatively short-lived if they're not looked after properly, and one of the reasons is it's just a natural way that they grow. Today I'm filming this video as more of a close-up video, as we've been requested to do more of the close-up videos. Please drop in the comments down below if you prefer this style or the other format, and it will help us decide which one is best suited to our community. But also it's going to help us see what we need to do to this poor catasetum. This little guy, we're in the middle of winter now, and me with my heavy watering hand has caused a few problems. So we're going to have to remove him from his pot and see what I have done wrong. So as I said, catasetums are saprophytic, and they go through a dormant stage during winter where their growth all just about stops completely, and they go into dormancy, which helps them produce flowers better in the early spring. But here I've noticed I've got this blackening around the bases, and it's gone soft and squishy. So it means I've rotted all my roots probably through overwatering during this winter period, and I didn't give it enough of a rest. So let's open it out and have a look. Quite difficult to get out, and we see this mass of root volume. Catasetums grow incredibly quickly during their growing season. That's why they need all that water and all that food to get their growth so that they can produce those flowers, so that they can propagate themselves. And we can see how much root volume is here. Most of it feels like it's not really very good any longer. We'll have a look at the media. This media looks like it was a peat of some sort, but I'm not going to be planting it into peat again, because we noticed what I did. Overwatering in winter can be disastrous for them. What we can do is we can leave them out and basically keep them out of any rain or dew that's going to be falling in winter. And only if we see the bulbs starting to wrinkle, then should we just give it just a light sprinkle, just to ensure that it doesn't desiccate too far. And just feeling at the base here, it's all rotten. So what we're going to do, take our sanitized secateurs, make sure that you've got nice sharp ones that can cut through this gooey mess. And we can see it's completely rotten, soft, squishy, liquid is coming out, and it doesn't smell so good. So that is not something I'm going to be throwing away. This is something I can still save, and I'll show you how and why. This part here also, we see the liquid coming out there. So I don't have to worry about this root volume at all. I can just cut it all off. So in most cases, on other orchids, people would just throw these away because there's no chance of survival. But with catasetums, we still have a chance. Let me show you how we can do this. Let's just get rid of this mess. If you wanted to know his name, there he is, Catasetum Orchid Glade, Jack of Diamonds. So now let's see what surgery we can do to bring this back to life. And how do I mean we can bring this back to life? First of all, let's do the surgery and we'll show you what happens afterwards. So if you've got super sharp grafting knives or budding knives, you're going to be glad you've got them. Even a scalpel will do, because these are as sharp as scalpels. So what we want to do with this is we want to feel about where the mushiness starts and do our incision and gently work our way around. Remember, always working with a sharp blade, work away from you. We don't want you removing your fingers. They're very fibrous on the inside, so it will catch your blade, and you've just got to work your way through it gently so as not to cause any sudden movements that will cut you. So we can still see there's all this mushiness and stickiness. We want to keep sanitizing our equipment and working our way through. Until we get to solid, uninfected orchid flesh. There we go. We can see that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that nice, fresh greenness and not this ugly, saggy brown yellow. This is easier to do if you're doing it on a board. That way you're not going to jump and skip the knife around, but this is the only way I'm able to show you. By the smell of this was probably a bacterial rot that had taken in. And we can see with how much moisture is actually in the back bulb itself as to how it is able to look after itself through those dormant periods. and then burst into that growth in spring because it has a lot of reserves. Okay, we can see we're getting closer. We've just got this little black section here that we want to remove. And we want to remove as little of the viable tissue as possible. Now we'll go on to our second one here. This might be slightly easier as just above this node of growth. It feels fairly safe, so we can just try and cut through along that line. And hopefully we don't have to go terribly much deeper than that. Okay, we still have this little bit of discoloration here and there. So we'll just remove a little bit more, see if we can shave it and get to where we want. Okay, there we have our two sections of our catasetum bulb, and that's all that's left. How are we going to get this to survive? Always remember, when you finish using a sharp utensil, put it away safely so you don't have any chance of causing damage to yourself or anyone else who may come in. Now these poor pieces look very sad. Most people would have just thrown them away and said the orchid's done. But with catasetums, we have dormant buds that are at these node points along the pseudobulb. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and get those to produce their little kikis or offshoots so that the new plantlets can grow. This is one of the adaptations that it's done to be able to survive out in the wild where it's growing on all that dead matter. If it gets eaten or chomped or broken or damaged by the falling branches or whatever it may be, then it has another way of producing offsets if the flowers or seeds haven't taken yet. Now we need to make sure that this plant is free from that bacteria or fungus or whatever it is that had been attacking it. So first of all, I'm going to treat it with hydrogen peroxide. Just give it a light spray over the entire section of the plant, including that cut area. And then I'll just leave that out to dry, 15 or 20 minutes to dry. After that, the hydrogen peroxide would have done its job. All the reaction would have been taken place, and we'll be able to treat it further. So what we're going to do with this, now that it's nice and dry, we're going to take our trusty cinnamon powder. This is going to help desiccate the open wounded area, just allowing it to dry out and heal, and it's going to stop any further infections setting in. Cinnamon powder has those amazing antibacterial and antifungal properties that are going to keep this section of our catasetum safe. So there we have it, almost ready to eat. And believe it or not, that's all I'm going to do to treat these. I'm going to lay these down and let me show how we do it. Because of my heavy-handed watering, I've gotten to this position, so not using a plastic pot this time, using a nice ceramic pot. This is going to allow for the moisture that's inside the pot to be absorbed out and allow that air movement in and around the pot. But that does not mean I'm not going to be putting it in a moisture holding mix. What I'm going to be doing is those coir chunks. These coir chunks leave a nice aerated mix so that lots of air can move through it, and they hold water. Not only do they hold water, they hold nutrients as well that you are feeding them, so it allows the plant to be fed for longer. Also, the roots can grow straight through them, so it's a wonderful media to use for orchids. And to help with the moisture, I'm going to be adding a little bit of extra long fiber sphagnum moss. And some bark chives. This is the fine bark, as I want to keep my moisture levels in this plant relatively high for those times when it is getting watered. So remember, when using a mix like this, during those winter months, you can stop watering altogether. No water. Unless you notice your pseudobulbs are really starting to struggle and really giving a bad wrinkle, then you can add a little drop or two. But other than that, generally you won't need to. So we've got about a 30% mix of each. So 1/3 sphagnum moss, 1/3 coir chunks, and 1/3 fine bark. And we're just going to be placing that straight into our ceramic pot. And we're not compacting it down. We don't want to compact this mix, otherwise we're losing all those air gaps, and with all of this water retention material that's in here, we're going to have serious problems. It will become one gooey mess quickly. So all we'll then do is just place these directly on top. We're not pushing them in, we're just allowing them to rest up top so that they upright, and we're going to wait for spring to come around so we can see what new growth is going to come. If we're not seeing any new growth popping up on this pseudobulb, we may try and give it a helping hand by using something like a kelp mix to feed. But always remember, catasetums are heavy feeders during their growth stages anyway. So feed and water well when growing well, and stop it all when they go dormant. Let's hope you're not left having to do surgery on your poor plants like I've just had to. These will be fine. We'll do an update video on this in several months' time so we can show you the progress. And that's all I have for you now on these catasetums. Fingers crossed. Let's hope I can do as good for them as what Mother Nature can. So there's a heads up with catasetums. Don't be scared to give them a chance, even if they look like they're dying. They might surprise you yet. And for those magnificent blooms, we'll go to the end of the world to keep this alive. And PS, if that works for video, but PS, these are not going to be watered again until spring comes around. I want to see some active growth before I start watering this again. Even if these pseudobulbs do start shriveling a bit, they're going to stay dry. And if you find any of the information in this video helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below, and that notification bell. Bing bong! bell to be notified of all our upcoming videos so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.